What's up, everybody? Wes Hodkiewicz here, Packers.com, joined alongside my colleague Mike Spofford. Another riveting edition of Packers Preview brought to you by Microsoft Surface. And it is extra credit season, boys and girls. The Green Bay Packers taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. NFC wildcard weekend, a 3:30 p.m. Central start time on Sunday at the Link in Philadelphia. Mike and I here for the next 15 minutes or so answering all of your questions on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Submit those there, and I will submit them off that cranium right over here. And before we get into those, we'll let all that bubble up, boil up, populate. Before we get into it, we do have the Packers injury report for this one. We know 2 players have been ruled out. Obviously, Christian Watson still not on IR, so he is out along with Zane Anderson. 5 players are questionable. That includes Evan Williams coming back from the quad injury, TJ Slayton, who didn't practice Wednesday but was back both Thursday and Friday, dealing with an ankle injury. Quay Walker dealing with his own ankle injury. Brenton Cox Jr. with a foot injury. And Andre Dillard also questionable coming back from the concussion. But 2 notable names that were not on that list are Jordan Love and Malik Willis. Yep. Both of the Packers quarterbacks on the 53-man roster. Good to go. Full participants both on Thursday and Friday. You could talk about anything you want to talk about, Michael, but obviously it starts with number 10, and at the very least, looks like he is ready to go for Sunday afternoon.
Yeah, there was certainly some question lingering in the air when he was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday, and then when he did his usual post-Wednesday media scrum at his locker, he said he was hopeful he was going to play. It wasn't anything definitive, so that left things kind of hanging out there for a little bit. But became a full participant in practice on Thursday, as you said, which was the padded practice this week, full pads for that workout on Thursday, and again, a full participant on Friday. So Jordan Love, good to go.
All right, Michael, you want to answer some questions?
Why not?
All right, this one will start on YouTube with Jeremy Hadler. Hey, guys. Hey, Jeremy. Who is the biggest X factor heading into this matchup for the Packers?
I think you have to say it's Edgerrin Cooper,
I
right?
really wanted you to do Xavier McKinney. Edgerrin Cooper's fine, too. That is a fine answer.
Just because he only played 11 snaps against the Philadelphia Eagles in the opener in Brazil. So this is not a guy that Philadelphia saw a whole lot in that head-to-head matchup. He's a guy who's become just a bigger and bigger part, when he's been healthy, a bigger and bigger part of the Packers defense as things have gone along. And just within the last couple of weeks, he's become an every down player. He's no longer a part-time player in this defense. So I really think that's the X factor here. He's the guy who has changed the look of Green Bay's defense in a lot of ways, and is somebody new and different that Philadelphia has to prepare for.
I would also like to say Xavier McKinney, but you know what? We're going to say it. Xavier McKinney, 8 interceptions, all-pro, first team. We found out today. Congrats to X on that.
Congrats to the X-Man there, yeah.
Very well deserved. Obviously, the impact he's made on this defense, and that whole season began with an interception against the Philadelphia Eagles in Brazil. But
right away in the first quarter, too.
First quarter.
I mean,
got it out of the way.
Yeah, right away.
Immediate return on investment, some people would say.
Yeah.
But my other one for this, I just want to say, Josh Jacobs. And Josh, it's a very tight battle for running backs. And I understand why he wasn't all-pro. You start with Derrick Henry. You have Saquon Barkley. These guys put up monster numbers, especially considering the era that they're playing in right now. That being said, I think Josh Jacobs and what he has done, what he has brought to this team, especially on the offensive side of the ball, I believe it was Adam Stenavich that was saying it at the podium on Thursday night. I mean, he has, changed the offense. I mean, this is a guy that we have literally built this thing around. It's a more physical front because of him, and was one of the stand-up guy award winners along with Xavier McKinney on Thursday. The Green Bay Packers go, like a lot of these offensive skill position players, but when Josh Jacobs is going, man, he is the freight train pushing this thing down the tracks.
Yeah, it's really interesting how the season evolved when you look back at it right now, because with Jordan Love getting hurt in Brazil at the very end of that Eagles game, then the offense was turned over to Malik Willis at quarterback weeks 2 and 3. And Willis had barely gotten here. He, knew only, very small portions of the playbook, was, taking a crash course in everything to be able to play those next 2 games. And so the Packers leaned on Jacobs and leaned on the running game to get those wins in weeks 2 and 3. And sort of it was like, oh, Josh Jacobs isn't just your garden variety number 1 running back. This guy is a workhorse.
Yep.
This guy is a true feature back in this league. And the Packers then continued to feature him all the way through when Jordan Love was playing hurt or working his way back from injury, whatever the case might be. And lo and behold, Josh Jacobs puts up more rushing yards than any Packers running back in 21 years, since Amon Green back in 2003, right? So that's the evolution of the Packers offense in 2024, and I think it'll serve them well Sunday in Philly.
This is Jacob Miller on YouTube. How do the Packers get an early lead and maintain it throughout the game?
Well, yeah, you'd love to get off to the fast start that we've seen this Packers offense get off to against the 49ers and the Dolphins, the road game in Seattle when things were really clicking and the Packers jumped on top. Obviously, that's what you'd like to do. It requires balance on offense. It requires execution on offense. And it requires the defense to come out and start fast as well. So there's a lot that goes into that. And, of course, everybody would love to see the Packers have a first half like they had in the wild card round in Dallas last January. That's probably not going to happen. Yeah. But, it's going to be a 4-quarter battle. Everybody knows that. The faster the Packers can get out of the gates, put themselves in position to ride this thing out for 4 quarters, and you try to give yourself a chance in the last 5 minutes of the game. That's all you can ask for.
Yeah, and I will also mention too, when you're talking about fast starts, I mean, this kind of bleeds into another question. This Snoop on Twitter, or excuse me, X had asked, who needs to be at their best for the Packers to win? It's not about who's at their best. It's not about which player is at their best. It's that somebody makes a moment. Somebody makes a play.
Yeah.
Somebody. It doesn't have to be Jordan Love. And you haven't read Insider Inbox yet, but I was just finishing that. I said it could be the guys that get elevated on a Saturday afternoon from the practice squad.
Right.
Anybody can make a play. You need guys to make a play.
Yeah.
When it comes to starting fast, Josh Jacobs, when you're looking at the probabilities, if the Packers are going to start fast, percentage chances are number 8 is going to be the guy that gets them going. But it can be a lot of different things. It could be the end around that we saw with Jaden Reed in Brazil. It can be a different thing. It can be a receiver breaking a tackle and running 70 yards downfield. All those things are in play at any given moment, but you have to have guys making plays.
Yeah.
That's the biggest key, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And looking back to the wild card playoff game in Dallas last year, Romeo Doubs suddenly was making big plays down the field. Jair Alexander gets an interception. Darnell Savage gets a pick 6. When the opportunities are there to make plays, whether it's on offense or on defense, you have to make them. You can't miss. You have to
Come at the king.
You have to hit on those opportunities, and that's what these games come down to.
Yeah, excellent points there. Okay, we are getting a lot of questions here today, Michael. It's a very busy day, and Tom Grassi hasn't even asked one yet. This is from Randolph Brown on X. Do you have to blitz Hurts to best shut down the passing game? Our 4-man rush has fallen short. Seems to fall short.
Yeah, it was interesting hearing Jeff Hafley talk about how to deal with Jalen Hurts at quarterback, because back in week 1 in Brazil, it was pretty obvious the Packers' pass rush plan was not to rush to try to sack Jalen Hurts.
Right.
It was all about containing him, not letting him beat the Packers with his legs. It was forming that pocket, containing him in that pocket. And Hafley basically said on Thursday, the Packers need to do some of that.
Yeah.
But they also need to, turn the page and try some other things against Jalen Hurts as well. So I think there's going to be, it's going to be a lot of mixing things up, throwing different changeups. I mean, sometimes they aren't going to go after Hurts in order to sack him. Other times, we might see the 5th or even the 6th rusher come on a blitz. Whatever you can do, and Jalen Hurts hasn't played a game for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Whatever you can do to try to keep him off balance and to keep him guessing as to what you're going to do, the better off the Packers' defense is going to be.
Okay. All right, let's get you another question here, Michael. Okay. Brenton Kelly, this is on YouTube. Hey guys, first time listener. Is that you, Brent, or is that Tom Grassi? First time listener, what will Jordan Love have to accomplish in this game to win the game?
I'll go back to what I said before, the simple phrase of don't miss. Not every play is going to be there to be made in the passing game here, but when there is a play to be made, it's got to be made. The throw has got to be on target. The Packers receivers have to catch the ball. The execution has to be there when the opportunities are there, because against the number 1 defense in the league, you're only going to get so many shots at these guys. And when those shots are available, the Packers have to cash in, and mostly that's going to fall on Jordan Love with delivering the ball where it needs to be delivered.
And I think it's making those big throws. When you think about the playoffs last year, again, I agree with Matt LaFleur. You can't use everything as that to set up the foundation for what happens this year. It's a different year, different season, different expectations, whatever. But Jordan Love made some of his best throws as a professional football player in that playoff run.
Yeah, he did.
The post to Dontavian Wicks. I mean, I think was it the pass to Dobbs? I'm trying to remember. I mean,
there were a couple downfield ones to Dobbs. There was
ones.
the one to Musgrave when he was open down the sideline. I mean, just there were all kinds of big time throws.
If he makes, I would say, 2 of those type of throws, I think that could be, when you're facing a number 1 ranked passing defense, I think that can be that little bit of a crack in the wall there that can get that dam to open.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, those moments, those plays can be the difference between a play that moves the chains and gets you into scoring position, or you're punting and giving the ball back
100%.
to Saquon Barkley and Jalen Hurts.
Another thing, this slipped my mind when we were talking about starting fast. the other thing I wanted to bring that all back to when you're talking about guys stepping up, yes, big plays matter, but it's about efficiency and it's about execution. Like people were asking again in inbox today, okay, the Packers win the coin toss. Do you take the ball? Do you kick?
Right.
I don't care what you do. You have to execute.
Yeah.
If you take the ball, execute. If you defer, the defense goes on the field, execute. Don't let them go down the field and get 7 points right away. Execution there is no right or wrong answer whether or not you take the ball.
Exactly.
It's about if you execute it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever decision you make, you have to make it work. You have to turn the decision.
Make it work.
You have to turn the decision into a positive by making it work. That's really what it comes down to, more so than what you actually decide.
His parents named him Mike. My parents named me Weston. That's a long conversation in itself. It's also why my middle name is Lee, because of the fight they got into over if it should be Wesley or Weston. You don't want to hear any of this. We're here for.
I do. That sounds.
You never heard about that story?
Maybe it's.
You
been
are
a while.
Michael.
It's been
You're
yes,
Michael.
I'm a Michael. Yes.
My
that's
mom wanted to
correct.
name me Wesley. My dad was like, "No, that's not happening." So my name is Weston Lee.
Oh,
So
okay.
the Weston became the first name, but they kept Lee as my middle name.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then when I was a kid, I went around calling myself my middle name Isaiah because I really liked Isaiah Thomas. So I was Weston Isaiah, and then my parents were like, "No, your middle name's Lee." I'm like, "I don't like Lee." This is going off the rails. So we're just gonna move back to the question.
Back to the question.
We're here for probably another 5-10 minutes. Again, Packers preview brought to you by our wonderful folks over at Microsoft Surface. We're getting a lot of questions, so I'll try to move as quickly as I can through all of this. First off, this one is from, I believe it's Jerry, and I appreciate this. They said, loved your story about the team coming around and rallying around Christian Watson after what happened. What's the vibe in the locker room? I thought, Mike, you were in there today. I was not in there much today. But on Wednesday and Thursday when I was in there, I thought the vibe was loose. I thought it was fun. To the point with the story that I wrote on Christian Watson, these guys have taken this as a rallying cry. Mm-hmm. And I left the locker room on Wednesday. It was the first thing I tweeted before I even started putting my story together. The main takeaway I had on Wednesday was this football team loves Christian Watson to a man. They respect the way he conducts himself, the way he goes out of his way to make sure the team is together, that nucleus is together. The role that he's had to play in that receivers room at only 24, 25 years old to be a leader amongst those guys, a lot of respect for him. What's the vibe like right now? I think this vibe is very similar to what it was last year, where it's we want to go to Philadelphia and we want to prove everybody wrong.
Yeah, I mean, that was the sense I got coming out of the Wednesday locker room after the first practice of the week, and I talked about it on our unscripted show that we taped on Thursday. It just feels like the team's headspace is in the right place. It's the sense that I get. That doesn't guarantee that you're going to win. It doesn't guarantee that nothing's going to go wrong, et cetera, et cetera. But I think mentally, if anybody's worried about the fact that the Packers lost these last two games to the Vikings and Bears, and that it's messed with the psyche of the team and all that, I think it's exactly the opposite. I think the losses at the end of the season have actually sharpened the Packers mentally and sharpened the psyche of this team, and I think they're going into Philadelphia with the right mindset.
Tucker on YouTube, what's more dangerous from Philly, the run game or the pass game? I respect everything that A.J. Brown and everything that Devontae Smith offer.
Yep.
Certainly they have some good tight ends there as well. I think it starts everything, though, with the backfield.
No question.
It's not just Saquon Barkley. It's the fact that in back-to-back years now, 14-plus touchdown rushes for Jalen Hurts. The fact that he has 600 rushing yards the past 2 seasons. This guy, if he's right and he's cleared the concussion protocol and he is green light to play in this game, I said it, Michael, I have a lot of respect for DeAndre Swift. I have a lot of respect for the running backs they've had there before. But the thunder and lightning that developed this year with Saquon Barkley in this lineup and still having the running threat of Hurts, that's where everything starts, especially behind that offensive line.
Yeah, no question about it. I mean, Barkley has changed the look of Philadelphia's running. They're always good at running the ball. You mentioned a guy like Swift. Kenneth Gainwell's a guy who's run the ball well for them, and obviously Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Their running game has been good since Jalen Hurts got there. Saquon Barkley gives them the home run threat every single play he's on the field. This guy had 17 rushes this year of 20-plus yards, and 4 of those were 65-plus touchdown runs. You're talking about a home run hitter unlike anybody else in the NFL right now. That's the dimension that Barkley has brought to the Eagles, to that offense, to that running game. That's just so dangerous.
So we're gonna play a little game here. You and I have never done this in all the years that we've done. Packers preview.
Packers preview.
I'm going to answer a question here from Tony Rivers. While I answer that, I'm going to point to you to a question on here, and when I'm done, let me know if you want to answer that one. You can tell me yes or no, and then I'll give you a different one. Because it's kind of a complex question.
Okay.
And I don't know. I think if you threw it at me, I don't think I'd have an answer for it, but I think it's a solid question.
Okay.
The question from Tony I'm going to answer before shifting this over so you can look at the next question is, after Watson, who's the next speedster? Some way, somehow, they need to keep up the deep threat. They have to keep the deep threat viable. So now you can maybe look at that while I answer this. Bo Melton is your next guy. That is the dude you're going to be looking at as far as just the speed that is going to be able to take away a secondary, take away the attention of those safeties. When we look at last season and what exactly happened, being able to have the success that he did against Minnesota and how that carried into the playoffs, I felt like a lot of that had to do with Bo Melton. I think Malik Heath also has shown a very good propensity to make the big play downfield. He said it in the locker room, both this week and after the game. The 41-yard catch, 3rd and 21. He wants to be in those moments. He thrives in those moments. I think both of those guys can do it, but when you're talking just about the absolute speed element, Bo Melton is the guy you can send downfield 4.3 speed that is going to command the secondary.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will answer Jeff Norman's question on Facebook. He says, how does our defense eliminate the center of the field being open consistently?
See, I didn't know if Coach Spot, if you threw that at me, I'd be like, okay, well, I got to think about it. But your Coach Spot.
No, but I was thinking about it while you
Yeah.
were talking about the receivers, which I thought you made some very good points there. There's a couple different things to say with regard to the whole defending the middle of the field thing. One is that if the Packers are in position to do so, which I think now that you're getting, obviously Alexander's not there, but now that you're getting what hopefully will be the preferred nickel secondary on the field for most passing plays, which is McKinney and Williams in the back end, Bullard in the slot, and Nixon and Valentine on the outside at cornerback, which is a group of 5 that has not been together for an extended period of time over the last 5, 6, maybe even 7 games of the season here. Now that you have that group back, I think it possibly opens the door to Jeff Hafley being able to mix things up a little bit more between zone coverage and man coverage in the back end behind whatever pass rush plan that you have up front. By being able to mix up the zone and man a little bit more, I think that will hopefully not allow the opposing quarterback to just sit back there and wait for somebody to come open in the middle of the field. The other part that is somewhat separate from that I will say is that I think the Packers need to do a better job defensively of picking up the safety valves that come out, whether it's a running back who stays in to help protect and then leaks out, or a tight end who throws a chip block or two and then leaks out into the pattern.
Tucker Kraft is really good at.
Right, and Kraft is very good at that as well. The Packers need to do a better job at picking those guys up, because a lot of times that guy who's, everybody's all upset that so-and-so is open in the middle of the field, it's somebody who's essentially a check down player. It's not a main option in the route for the opposing offense, but because the Packers haven't picked that guy up coming out of the backfield or coming off of the line of scrimmage after a chip block, that's why opposing offenses have been able to move the chains that way. So that's the way I see it from an X's and O's perspective as far as how the Packers can do a better job in the middle of the field.
We have so many questions. We are not going to be able to get to them all. I do want to take this, though, Nate. Dizzle on YouTube. The Packers defense is underrated, which I think they are. They ended up finishing 5th. They were about, 15 yards away from finishing 3rd. But in that defense, guess who was received a vote All-Pro at cornerback? Keyshawn Nixon. And when you're talking about an underrated defense and the most underrated player in that defense, I know I wrote about it. I know I'm self-promoting my own work, but Keyshawn Nixon, man, the Green Bay Packers, this playoff run, everything that has happened to get to this point, Green Bay is not here without him.
Yeah, and the foundation of this defense finishing ranked where it is what they've done against the run. This is the Packers' best defense against the run in a number of years, and that's been the foundation that Hafley has developed over the course of the season, and hopefully now this defense is ready to peak.
The funny thing about it is, too, I actually feel like those inside linebackers, this would have been the year where I think they'd have been set up pretty well, depending on which formations they have to use, whether it was 3-4 or 4-3. but watching how that group, especially with 3 linebackers off ball behind that front 4, they've operated in the base. I don't know the stats. I don't know how it splits, but I mean the base defense against the run this year, when you're talking about the reasons why some of the things Green Bay did defensively to switch up the scheme, that had something to do with it.
Yep, I agree.
This is a good question. I don't think we have an answer to this, but I will say this. This is from Over the Hill. Games on YouTube. Looks like we're going to have Valentine, X, Williams, Bull, Nixon in the secondary, and Quay and Cooper in the middle. Again, 2 of those guys are questionable. We'll wait and see.
Right.
But is this the first time that we've had them all on the field at the same time this season? I don't know the answer to that. Maybe you do. But the fact that I don't know the answer to that does sort of speak to the fact of, even if they are, it's kind of like the Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave thing last year. It's just been so infrequent just because of injuries in various situations.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe that. I was about to say that maybe that was the case in Seattle, but I believe Bullard missed the game.
Bullard was out.
Bullard missed the game in Seattle, so even that one wasn't that wasn't the case there. And then I know the last 3 regular season games, you're talking the Saints game, the Vikings game, the Bears game. Walker and Williams were both out.
You're right.
They've both been out essentially since the Seattle game.
I think our social department, I'm first seeing this now, our social department was saying more of these stories, Wes, as it relates to my name and that. Maybe next year on Packers Preview, we'll have like a break where I just recount something from my childhood, whether it's, there's so many different things that could happen there. But the fact of the matter is that Weston Lee Hodkowitz, that's how that went down.
Yeah.
Let's close on this one. Again, I appreciate everybody asked questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to all of them. But Lewis Sellers on X, and I think this will bleed into my usual question about key to victory. What stats do you see indicating a Packer win? 35-plus minute time of possession, 65-plus offensive plays? What do you think? What must happen? Let's look specifically at the offensive side of the ball for Green Bay to walk out of the link with a win and head over to Detroit looking to ruin the Lions season.
Yeah, I think you're really hoping that, assuming that you're going to be able to run upwards of, say, 65 plays or something over the course of this game. If 30 of those are rushing plays, I think the Packers offensively are in pretty good shape. On the defensive side, for me, it just comes down to the explosives, because Barkley, as I said, is such a home run hitter, and then Brown and Smith, those receivers on the outside, they can gash you with big plays. The Packers have to make Philadelphia kind of grind it out so that their defense has a chance at different stages to get some stops, whether that's a stop for a punt, whether that's a stop to make them kick a field goal if they get into scoring range. You're not going to be able to have those chances to get stops if you're giving up the explosives.
And I'll give you one more thing, and this is, again, something in Insider Inbox that you have not read yet. Mike Spofford was sitting next to me in the press box at Ford Field, and he said to me pretty early on in the game when it was very competitive between the two teams, saying the first team to 30 is going to win this thing.
Yeah.
This game feels a lot like that.
Okay.
And Michael, the only time the Green Bay Packers have lost this season when scoring 30 or more points was against Detroit when the Lions got there first.
Yep.
If the Packers can put up 30 in this game and be the first team to do it, I think they can pull off the upset and shock the football world one more time. He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hodkowitz. We will be doing Packers preview as long as the Green Bay Packers are live in the postseason. We hope that is next week. But be sure to stay tuned at Packers.com and the Packers mobile app. Tons of stories there. Again, Xavier McKinney, we found out today, All-Pro. First time in his career receiving those honors. I think it was, roughly a week after finding out for the first time he'd gotten to the Pro Bowl as well.
Yep.
Mike had some injury updates as well, story about that, where things stand with Green Bay. And I also wrote about, as we talked about during the live stream, the reaction in the locker room to Christian Watson not being out there. Guys like Malik Heath saying they are going to do it for him this postseason run. And it's going to be pretty fun. I'm excited to get to Philadelphia.
Me too.
I'm excited to have a cheesesteak for the first time. I said I was going to do that.
All right.
I have had cheesesteaks, but with no cheese on them. I just had steaks and a hoagie, basically.
Yeah.
I'm going to eat a cheesesteak in Philadelphia, and I will report back on how exactly that experience goes.
Okay.
He's Mike Spofford. I'm Wes Hodkowitz. We thank you, as always, for joining us on Packers Preview. And until next time, we'll see you later.